So with that, we'll find out why ripening rooms or ripening programs are important. Okay, there's two main things to understand. And it was really interesting. 2 weeks ago, I attended an international symposium on ripening pears, and there was cherries and storage of apples. You don't ripen cherries, but I mean, they were there for representing. And I can say how professor after professor, I'm not a professor. I don't have my PhD. I just do it in the real world. But this was a common thread that everyone seemed to talk about and to get understanding of people. And here's the two main categories of fruit, the way it's listed under the International Horticulture Society. You have climacteric or climacteric, you're going to hear that a lot, or the non. You won't hear that so much here, but non means once you pick it, it's done. Now I know a lot of you that ripen have either been somewhere or have seen something, or maybe you do it yourself. You wrap a pellet in plastic and you warm it up thinking you're going to accelerate the ripening. You're probably doing really bad things to it, and it doesn't accelerate the ripening. It doesn't create uniformity, and it creates an off flavor usually. It's not good science. So, bless you. Anyway, the other fruit doesn't get any sweeter. You can degreen citrus, and you're going to learn about that, and you can degreen papaya. You can't change the bricks, even though it's a climacteric or a climacteric fruit. But this is really important to understand this. And the key to this is harvested when mature. I can't take immature fruit and put it in a ripening room and make it mature. That's not the magic wand. So that's a really important concept to understand. And the other ones, they don't ripen any faster after harvest. They're actually dying. Senescence is taking place. There's a straight line of death they're going through. So temperature control is really important. So here's your climacteric fruit. Bananas, avocados, tomatoes, pears. You can pretty much read this. But remember, in papaya, we can't change the bricks. Here's the non. Okay, this is really interesting. I wish there were more retail buyers here because it's really interesting. Retailers sell ripe bananas, so why not other fruit? It's a mystery to me. But the Europeans have known this for a long time, and the people in the Far East have learned it. Now, I had a little experience here in life. I went to this bodega here. This is in India. And I remember gravitating towards this little display right here. And that man slapped my hand when I went to touch a pear. You no touch. Because he said, I know the fruit, you no touch. So anyway, I just pointed to it and he picked it out. But just different ways of selling things. Now this is over in Russia. And I don't know if you can see, but they wrapped almost everything there was in plastic, kind of like Publix. Since Publix is here, I'll talk about them. They wrap a lot of fruit. And I don't know why they wrap their watermelons in that, but they did. But this is a pretty nice display for Russia. And this was taken like 10 years ago, that picture. So, but the difference in way a retailer merchandises and sells their product is different in different places around the world. So the benefits of, we're talking conditioned pears, but you can take pears out of there, and let's say you can put mangoes in there, or bananas in there, anything. You want to increase your sales. That's what it's about. Now we did a study probably about 8 years ago with a retailer here in Sacramento, and we started it in February, which is really the wrong time for a pear program. You want to start them in October or November, right? You know, in the harvest time, or late September, depending on what the pear is. So I really didn't want to get behind this program because it was going to be started at the end of February and go to the end of April. But we did 10 same demographic stores, one with conditioned fruit. We gave them like a banana cycle, and the other ones we just sent them normally the way they'd normally receive their pears. And lo and behold, we had a 19.5% increase. Now we didn't do this. If you'll notice here, Nielsen did the category crunching, and they had people out in the stores looking at the displays and that. But any ripening, it's a consumer preference. They want something that they can eat today or tomorrow. They don't want to wait 5 or 6 days. And the pear people were famous for having a little paper bag by the pear display, and we're telling you to buy this pear, put it in this bag, and eat it in 4 or 5, maybe 6 days. This is bad marketing, I think. So it was really interesting when they did a study. Consumers don't buy pears due to their number one reason, flavor. Now, I'll keep this in your mind. Look at this one. Customers or don't buy pear on the other side, and here's the reason they buy pear is flavor. So if I go back, we've got an opportunity, because there's 48% of the people that do not buy pears because of the flavor, meaning there's no flavor. So there's a lot of opportunity in the pear category in the United States. So then you have to educate people. It's really easy with a Bartlett because a Bartlett transitions from green to yellow, just like a banana. The Anjou, however, pretty much maintains the same greenish temperature, or texture, look, color on the outside. It will eventually get just a little yellow to it this time of year when it's coming out of controlled atmosphere storage. But basically, there's no color change. So consumers prefer ripe pears. Did a survey, 60%, and they're willing to pay more for them. Which reminds me of a study we did with avocados a long time ago. We sold size 60 ripe avocados, or Vaughn's did, for 25% more, or 25 cents more than a size 48 that was green and hard. What do you think the sales ratio difference was between the 60s, the smaller fruit that were ripe, paying 25 cents more than the size 48 that was green and hard? What do you think the ratio was? Anybody take a guess? What?
2 to 1.
2 to 1? It was almost a 3 to 1. It was like a 2.6 something or other, but very good. See, he was brave. Say something. Talk. But no, I mean, it was just, and it was astounding. And this was back in the day when we could put a camera over a display. You can't do that anymore. But they had a camera over a display to look how the customers, accepted it and what they were thinking. But that was an eye-opener for the avocado industry. I believe we did that in 1989, and everyone started building ripening rooms. So the benefits of conditioned, customers don't want to wait. Here, this just deals with pears, but it has to do with avocados also. It has to do with mangoes also. When you want something to eat tonight or tomorrow, you don't want to wait. You don't want to wait this 5 or 6 days. That was the paper bag program. Look at the difference. So there's, only 10% are willing to wait. And I guess they're what we call settlers. They're just settling for whatever they get in life, and that's kind of it. The key thing about ripening is it really does unlock flavor, and it gives you a better eating experience, and that's what makes the customer come back, because they're buying with their eyes, they're returning with their taste buds, and that's how you get repeat sales, and that's how, quite frankly, you can cut your shrink somewhat by selling more items on the store shelf. So it's a point of differential. If you know that one store can always give you ripe fruit ready to eat, that's usually where people are going to shop. PMA did a study once, and the number one reason customers in the United States shop a particular retailer is produce. And that study, they do it every 3 or 4 years, and it's always come up the same thing. The other thing that's really interesting is 85% of produce purchases are impulse buys. The people that go in there that need a recipe, they need something for, part of an ingredient of a recipe, or somebody says pick up a bag of this or one of these, then they write it down. Otherwise, it's all bumping through the produce department. What smells good, what tastes good. You've all seen people picking a grape. We've all done it. We pick a grape, and how are they? If they're sour, you don't want them unless you like sour grapes. I mean, there's a big influence of the produce department, and that's usually why in most retailers, it's the first department you go into in a grocery store. The milk and the bread, it's always in the back. That's a destination thing. People always go to get milk or butter, and they're always in the back of the store. Produce, it's the signature department for most retailers. So you want to promote repeat sales. It actually helps cut shrink, and we increase customer satisfaction. Any ripening program will do this. Ripening programs, they're not difficult. You have to commit, you have to communicate, you need the equipment, and we're going to go through that through this 2-day course, and you need to get education. Whether you get it from here, from a book, on the internet, learn from somebody, education is really important. And please, don't be one of these people in life. What do you want to know? Oh, I don't know if I can tell you that. There are people I've met in produce that think what they know is job security. It's all out there. You just have to find it. But you need to share this information. You need to go back and share this with other people you've worked with. You need to push it uphill to a buyer. Maybe there's a buyer in your organization that just doesn't quite feel right in putting something in a ripening room. Let him know. Don't be afraid of this. Be the category, whatever produce item you're here for, be that hero that goes back to your company and educates them on it. They sent you here. I mean, you should be thankful. They put an investment in you to bring you here, not to go work for somebody else, but to get an education, to teach them to be their resource. So please, share this information. Don't let them take your book away from you, though. Keep that book. So anyway, it's real important. It's communication at different levels, and it's real important to find out how you're going to do it, and it does even trickle back to the produce department. However, I have learned through working with different commodities, we really don't want to tell the customer that we're gassing fruit. And that's what we do, but there's a whole different mindset when you say you've done something. Most people do not know what a banana goes through when they buy it. So just say you treated it like a banana. That's your out. I treated it like a banana. Because I'm telling you, people, my daughter's a vegetarian, and I say, well, we treated it with gas, and she's still today, oh, Dad, don't say that, it just drives me crazy. You know, people don't like hearing that. So, anyway, know who your audience is. Equipment. I can't tell you time and time again, I've worked all around the world. I've flown 6.5 million air miles doing ripening. I cannot pick up an avocado or a mango or a pear. Pear, check up the neck, avocado, I check up the neck. But I can't tell you what the pressure is. I know if I want to eat it. I know if it's like within a range I would want to eat it. But this little tool right here, this penetrometer, most places I go, I'll grab the penetrometer and I'll push the bottom and I see the little dial go skip, 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 which means I got too much juice up in the shaft and you got to clean it for them and show them how it works. And if it doesn't work, I throw it away right in front of them and I'll give them a brand new one. Because this is making an economic decision that affects a grower, a shipper, an importer, and your retailer. Because you're going to be out of product. If you rejected it for some reason, you may be out of product. But you rejected it because maybe this thing isn't working right. Or you didn't do the right technique. There is a technique to using this. Notice it's on a firm surface. And I'm sorry to tell you, you're going to see in the mango book, we show a guy with a hand going like this. You're going to see it in the pear manual, same thing. That's bad science. Just not good. So the best way to have it's on a little drill press, which costs about $700. It's too bad we didn't have a California tree foot agreement because they used to give those away like candy in the mid-90s because they wanted you to test the pressure of peaches and plums, and that's really the way to do it with a delicate fruit like that. But this instrument is really important. There's 2 tips in there. Most fruit use just the 8mm tip in there. We use it in mangoes, we use it in pears, we use it in avocados. So anyway, equipment's really important. Ripening programs. When you ripen pears, it depends on the harvest time, the cold storage, and the controlled atmosphere storage. All those affect it a little differently. 1 MCP, anybody here from AgriFresh? Oh, you're on the line, huh? Well, they have this great tool for storage for apples called 1 MCP or Smart Fresh, and it was developed to store apples longer. They use it with other commodities now. For pears, if we keep it 2 days in a ripening room at 68 degrees, it'll break that bond. But it really isn't a good tool for pears if you're trying to ripen them, or other fruits. That can be another discussion later, but it really depends. You have to know the fruit you're getting on how it's going to ripen. How has it been treated? Did it come into your distribution center at the wrong temperature? If you have chilled or shocked your fruit before it comes in, mangoes especially, you bring those mangoes in and they're cold, let's say you get them at 36 degrees, you're going to have a hard time trying to get those mangoes to ripen properly. And properly is the key to get the color change, to get the stage movement in the pressures of the fruit. So you really need to watch your temperatures on arrival, or everything you put into it for the 4 days you're going to use a ripening room may be for naught. So ripening rooms, where will it take place? Are you going to have it at a warehouse or a distribution center? Just depends on where you're going to do the ripening. There's many different forms and types of ripening rooms. Some are more efficient than others, but the key thing is for this one, there's a little generator making the ethylene. It's a forced air room, meaning the air is going through the pallet right here and up, or coming down through and going like this. This one, this is a humidifier. It kind of looks like a bomb back there in a way. I mean, if you're ever in the military, you know what some things like that look like. And this used air bladders, and it was pulling the air here up, and so the air would be pulled through these holes in here, but it was pulling the air up this way. These are fans up in the ceiling. It was kind of unique. There's a company in Ireland that made this, and the picture was taken from Japan, but I thought I'd take a picture. And there's a temperature probe in the fruit so they could monitor the fruit. Real important. Temperature is really important during ripening. And there you go, temperature. There are some mobile ripening systems. We had 25 of these trailers developed by Del Monte to ripen bananas on the road. They didn't quite work really good, so then they tried melons, the honeydews, to degreen them a little bit. You can't change the bricks of a honeydew, but you can make the skin tacky on the mature ones. You get a great aroma. But they didn't work too good, so a lot of them were sitting around in California. We started using them for pears, because pears don't produce a lot of BTUs of energy as they ripen. So this unit right here could handle that. But once you put avocados or bananas in there, that unit doesn't do a really good job of handling the temperature control, so there was a lot of issues. But at one time we had 25 of those used in the pear industry. I think there's probably 6 of them now. And then there's other systems. This can be used to make a forced air cooling system like this. It's just a room, fans are back here, you put a tarp. There's not a whole lot of science that's needed sometimes. It's just physics to make sure you get air through a pallet equally and temperature equally to introduce ethylene and take out the carbon dioxide. This was in a pear canning facility in China, Del Monte. They brought the pears in crates. I said we needed a fan. They had a fan. I said we needed some plywood. And this particular tarp was the shelter for the 900 women that were working in this factory at lunchtime so the sun wouldn't come down on them. They did not like me. I just said, as an example, like that. I went to lunch, came back, it was off, it was sitting on the floor in this room, and we made a forced air ripening. And I didn't put all the pieces together till my second time I came there. I actually went there 5 times to this facility. But you'll notice, this is bamboo. I said I need a 2x4. I mean, they didn't know what I meant. Board. And he said, oh, we got a piece of bamboo. So what we did is fruit doesn't have a brain. Remember, it doesn't have a brain. It doesn't care if it's stainless steel or brand new. You just need ethylene, airflow, temperature, and some humidity. Well, the humidity was water poured on the floor. And it was a little scary for me because in this facility, they used 240 volt electricity. Laying on the floor, pigtailed, with no wire caps, no tape, anything, 240 volt pieces of electricity, I'm looking at metal twisted together, on this floor right next to the water. I said, until you fix that. And all they did, they took one of these empty crates and they put it up on top of it. That's all they did. They left the bare wires right there. And the tank, the ethylene, had no gauge on it. They just went, psh. And I just imagined things blowing up, because LA Banana did blow up. It blew up, killed a guy, crippled a guy. I was in that facility the first week. I refused to go in there after that because of that reason. They had no gauge on it. That's an accident waiting to happen. And I think this is going, okay, you can make these systems too. That's a system I made for a pear person, kind of off this last one right here, kind of like this system that's right here, because they put this loading dock foam on the edges. But that worked. And they used it for, I think we had 20 pallets on each side, because those fans, whoops, jumping ahead. See, here it shows the air suction. Now these little plastic tubes were supposed to be sewn into the plastic. I think we built that for like $5,000. They just happen to have a big room. But this is it, working. We covered over the fans, and it had enough airflow there. Look how it's pulling that tarp in. So it's bringing the air from over here through that pallet on both sides. That's all it was really trying to accomplish. Now you need sources of ethylene. This was a little scary. Here's an ethylene generator. This is in Russia. It was in Vladivostok. That is a heater. Now to me, you don't want a heater by an ethylene generator. It's not going to blow up, but just for the plain sake of you don't put those two things together in the same place. Maybe on the other side of the room. And you can see they have bananas sitting here. They just air stacked them in there. I don't know what this liquid was. I didn't want to ask, but it was some kind of chemical they had. This is producing a tremendous amount of ethylene, and it was in front of the largest pear importer in India. And I asked him, how often do you, every 2 weeks, every week. They didn't care. This is the largest pear importer in India. This is where they dumped all the bad stuff right in front of their business. And all that ethylene was going into their storage. And I tested their storage facility for ethylene, and I couldn't believe how high it was. Well, when I went out front, because I came in the back way, that's what it was. Because the air was coming off the loading dock all the time, seemed to be this little airflow into their facility. They'd shut it down at night, and all that ethylene would be sitting in there. So you got to know what's going on with your business. That's a generator. Education at all levels. Bring in outside expertise if you need it. That's just education. We have a pear handling manual, most commodity boards, and if you go to the room with the manuals in it, there's some mango information there. Try not to take a lot of it, but there's some manuals there, because sometimes people take 5 or 6 of them, and if you need them, we'll get them to you. But there's a pear manual in there too, and we have an area about ripening and how to do it, the procedures, what you can do. Some fruits you can do together, some fruits you can't. And these are the ones we commonly condition. And the key points: ethylene is really important. Absorption of ethylene in the fruit, meaning the proper temperature, because there's a bottom temperature of acceptance, and there's a top temperature where your receptor site will shut down. You will still have some color change. You may still have softening, which could be just dehydration, but you're not going to get enzymatic change inside because the receptor site for ethylene has been shut down. And pressure change may not really happen when it first comes out of a ripening room. You may not see anything. Like a pear, we don't have a kill zone. We can put a pear through a banana cycle with the same temperatures as a banana, and if that room can go down to 33 degrees, we can put it down to 33 degrees and we have no kill zone. We won't shock the fruit. Try that with a tropical. It shocks the fruit, turns bananas black. So anyway, that's supposed to be a little video, and then questions. The big thing that you can really remember is temperature, because temperature is really important when you do things in a ripening room. And how many of you have opened up a banana room, or been when they open up the room from a banana ripening, and you smell that smell? That's not ethylene. You're smelling the 65 different volatiles or esters given off from bananas as they ripen. You have to. Ethylene's colorless, odorless. It's just, you're not going to smell it. So when people open up their rooms and smell that ethylene, and if you walk in that room and you feel your chest getting tight, you need to check your carbon dioxide level. Here's how important carbon dioxide is. Now I'm going to mention a game that maybe some of you do not know or understand. It's a game called croquet. Does everyone here know croquet, the game? It's got a wicket, a stick, and a little hoop, and you're putting a little ball through it. It's an English game, and some people play it, some people don't. But we're going to play croquet, and I'm going to give everyone here a volleyball. You know a volleyball? About this big? Croquet ball is about that big. So I'm going to win the game, because the volleyball is going to plug up the hoop, and you can't get through the hoop. And what I want you to think about, that's carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a big molecule. When you have a ripening room and you start going above 1% CO2 in that room, that big molecule is coming up to that little receptor site for ethylene, and it's plugging it up. Really important to have somebody, whether it's a banana company, whether it's somebody, you can buy the testing kits. I carry them with me all the time, and every time I come through, customs goes, what do you do with these? What are these for? Because there's a little white powder in a glass tube, and you have to explain to them you're testing. And Mary Lou, you may have the same problems going through customs when you take your instruments through. They always want to know what you're doing and what you're doing. But it's really important to understand that concept. That's why we vent ripening rooms, to get the carbon dioxide out of it. So those are the two things, temperature and carbon dioxide, I think are the two biggest impediments sometimes of ripening. So are there any questions?